I got a question from a good friend of mine uh, on one of the last videos that I posted. Um, and she asked, I was talking about spirituality and spiritual awakening and the importance of uh, our definitions of those things and the terminology that we use around those things. Um, Not because I have any interest in being part of the non-dual word police. Um, I don't know how productive that is really. Um, but because when we engage this work, um, sometimes it's easy to get bogged down in conceptual definitions of what we're talking about. Um, we're pretty limited in terms of languaging the experience of uh, any kind of spiritual shift, any kind of um, hmm, refinement in perception, or significant difference in experience when it comes to um, our normal reference point, right? So finding words for that can be difficult. Can, and in my experience, really should be difficult. It's very hard to verbalize. Um, so in my last video, I was talking about kind of the some of the bottom layers of that. And one of the things that I think I said was uh, don't just say awareness when you get to the bottom layer, or what seems to be the bottom layer of experience. And my friend Hannah said, "Why do you say don't say awareness?" And then she proceeded to answer her own question. Uh, but I thought it might be worth addressing just in case that was confusing, or in case any of you have heard someone say that awareness is the ground of being and that kind of thing. First of all, I'd like to say that I don't disagree. I don't disagree with awareness being the ground of being. And it proved to be this really big roadblock for me using the term awareness for the ground of being, or the sort of substrate of all of experience. Um, Simply because I have a really skeptical, uh, scientifically based mind in terms of how human physiology works, if that makes sense. So when somebody would say awareness is the substratum of existence, or of experience, or of subjectivity, the place that I went to immediately was the neural correlates of brain activity that indicate awareness. Yeah, that was um, kind of a big sticking point for me. Um, the same thing happened when people would describe it as consciousness being the fundamental reality. Because consciousness I had sort of enmeshed with the phenomenon of perception, perception mediated via the brain. So both of those terms were really sticky for me for a long time. First, they were sticky because I equated them with with these processes that I just mentioned, and then they were sticky because they became pat answers for a period of time. I don't know if you can relate with that, but when you um, read enough books and hear enough talks and watch enough videos, um, it starts to become easy to lean on these conceptual labels or frameworks that describe the merging of experience and experiencer, or observer and the observed, um, the collapse of separation between ourselves and the world, which is really what matters, right? The terms aren't what matter. The words that are used aren't what really matters. It's this um, mm, dissolving of separation and dissolving of identification that matters. And yet, if we're using terms or hearing terms that can get jumbled or that we can lean on as a crutch, um, that that collapse of separation, or the intimacy that's possible with all of experience, may be harder to contact or unveil or reveal, however you want to think of it. But don't think too hard. Um, so that's one of the reasons that I mentioned. Maybe don't just go straight to awareness when you're looking for a term, when you're looking for an answer, when you're looking to define what the fundamental aspect of spiritual awakening might be for you. Um, Not because it's a wrong answer, because it's not. Uh, but because the way in which we use that word, just as we use any other word or set of words to describe any of this, is just a very well constructed lie. Yeah? Because words can't ever really do this justice. By the same token, if we're too vague, it can be misleading or confusing or detrimental. So occasionally we'll talk about just this, or we'll say there's never been anything but this, which is also true. But that description uh, contains so little reference that it can become disorienting or confusing in a different way, from a different angle. So it is true that there is only this, and that nothing has ever happened. Those are true statements. But they may not be pinpointed or focused enough for us to um, gain any kind of context for what that means. And context, when it comes to non-dual realization and embodiment, in my experience, is really the part of this that makes any of it mm, transferable off of your cushion if you're a meditator, or transferable to um, everyday life in the world, whether you meditate or not. So, for what it's worth, the the conceptual label that tends to resonate the most here these days is unconditional openness or unconditioned openness. That's what I would say the sort of fundamental substrate of this is. Um, Unconditioned potentiality is another good way to think of it. So, for what it's worth, as you move through your unfolding, uh, if a term doesn't seem to facilitate a further unfolding, which is really all that terms and concepts are any good for, um, it's okay to not be married to it in terms of feeling like that has to be the explanation. This is a little bit of a follow up to the last video where I said, what does it mean to you? What does this unfolding process mean to you? Because your words and how they solidify or deconstruct are really really what matter in your own process.